Hi, this is a video walkthrough of my show entitled Sunlight and Shadow and Back. And we're going to start with some earlier works over this area. As you can see, this is the sunlit room. We're going to go through part of the sunlit room, and then we're going to go into the shadow room, and then we're going to return to the sunlit room. And Jim's videotaping separate pieces as we go along. So when you walk through it, it's a history of my work that I've done over the last 8 years. Okay. This sculpture right here is called Another Guy in the Rainforest in the Lesson of Banyan Tree. And this was one of my earliest pieces. It's exhibited in a couple of art shows. This one is called Dancing Hand, and looking at all the activity inside the hand, how dynamic and alive it is. This is called Amy's Vision, and it's an extension of a story she told me about a rock concert, and the little people in here, the continents are blankets pulled up to all the people in the whole world. They're all happy, and it has the different, the diverse cultures. The little people have the blankets of the continents pulled up to their heads, and they're chilling out and having fun. Okay, we're going to go on to the next piece now. This is a drawing called Light in the Forest, and this is one I was very interested in, dappled lighting. And this piece, and there's another painting that's related to it. I'll show you that. And this painting is an oil painting related to the light in the forest, but it's also the beginning of my interest in the sycamore trees that are near our house. And I like the pattern of the tree repeating the pattern that's going on in the forest. And of course the dappled lighting I'm still very fascinated with. I still am, but that was the focus on these two. This piece is called Maze Goddess. It has, instead of corn, it has the maze here, all the different colors. And within each of the different colors, there is a different child's face. All the different colors here represent all the different colors of our species. And I was really intrigued with the idea of using paper to sculpt with, to create form, but also using it in the traditional sense to create a message. So I have the message is readable within the whole sculpture. And it says, maize is Indian corn, the sacred plant of the North American Indians and Aztecs for over 7,000 years. The kernels are clamped tightly together within the cob. If the cob is not harvested, it drops to earth, and the seeds, all germinating at once, will choke each other out. But if they are given proper amounts of rain, sunlight, and soil, they might grow into healthy new plants. And I thought that was a wonderful metaphor for how we need to treat each child precious, as precious. And the next, I want you to see also a close-up of the cobs here. Now we're going to skip more recent pieces, and we'll come back to those later. I do want to show you Bone Boy. I'd like you to come over here and see that. This is an enlargement of a piece I call Bone Boy. My son Mark was about 8 years old when I did this, and I found a pelvic bone of a cow for $1 at a garage sale, and I brought it home, and he and I together came up with different ways to use the cow bone. And I took photographs of all the different ways we came up with. And then after the film was developed in black and white, then I hand tinted all of the different versions of it, how it was used, and collaged this all together. And we won a Arts Indiana poster competition on this. We got the #1 prize, and so we're very proud of this. This piece I did several years ago, and it's one of my first attempts at collage, and I'm very happy with it. I won't go into detail on what all it says, but I really liked, I had found a photograph, a black and white photograph, an old one that I think was in the family for a long time, and I really liked the look of, he looked like any man, and he was dwarfed by the size of the steps. And we had been to Florida, and we had seen the shaping of the banyan tree, and I thought that was very symbolic of what we're doing to nature in this century. And I thought the cow was a real paradoxical figure in it, because the cow is such a traditional figure. And this talks about our searching for what our life is about, and it comes down to, at the end, it's serving the community with love. Basically, that's what it's about. I'm going to go ahead and read this to you. It's a quote from Dharma Bums by Jack Kerouac, and it's called the actual piece is called "The World is an Ethereal Flower," but I'm going to go ahead and read what it says here too. I'm going to die because there's nothing else to do in this cold wilderness of this harsh, hospitable earth. And instantly the tender bliss of enlightenment was like milk in my eyelids, and I was warm. I realized that this was the truth. Rosie knew now, and all the dead, my dead father and dead brother and dead uncles and cousins and aunts, the truth that is realizable in a dead man's bones and is behind the tree of Buddha as well as the cross of Jesus. Believe that the world is an ethereal flower and we live. I knew this. I also knew that I was the worst bum in the world. The diamond light was in my eyes. My cat meowed at the ice box, anxious to see what all the good dear light was. I fed him. This one is called Dharma Ki Light, and Jim and I were in Chicago several years ago. I laid down on the sidewalk and took a picture looking up at him with the buildings in the background, because I wanted him and the buildings to both look monumental. So I got real low and was looking up. When the film was developed, I really liked the negative better than the positive of the photograph. So I decided to use the negative, to paint in gouache what I saw in the negative, because I loved the light coming out of his face. And I also felt that even though this is the opposite colors of Joe Camel, and I hate Joe Camel, but I feel like since it was the opposite of it, I felt like it was almost looked like it was blessing him. So this was just a very magical piece to me at the time that I did it. It had a lot of spiritual significance. This sculpture is called Life Force, and I was very interested in thinking about all life coming from the sea, and I made a bed of ocean water, of ocean with the waves, and then I have little life forms emerging from it. And after I finished the sculpture, I did a painting of the same thing. This oil painting is called Man and Beast, and Jim and one of our cats, Beast, were sleeping together at the same time when I painted this. I like the darkness where it almost looks like a negative space, and you see that there is a cat there. And, he's sleeping, but he's just got his eye open just a little bit. He's still kind of aware of what's going on, but he's asleep. This diptych is called Amy, 2 and 22. And this one I actually did a painting with her when she wasn't just about 2. And then 20 years later, I did this one with her. And I think it's interesting because you can see some of the similarities and some real differences, not only in her as she changed over 20 years, but also in my painting techniques. And this one is a personal one. We'll go to Amy. This piece is called Waiting for Epiphany. In this one, I was very interested in working with the idea of illusionary space and real space. And I wanted to represent this arc. Arc is a higher power. And I wanted this to feel more real to the viewer than the images in this cave-like feeling of, hopefully it's feeling that there's depth in it, but it's all illusionary, and this is natural. And I feel that the different eyes that are looking out of this, you can't, the viewer can't tell whether they can see this or not. It's unclear, and they're gazing out and wondering and waiting. And then the frame that I made, it has hands reaching out of water, and I think of the water as a metaphor for the subconscious, and they're reaching out for help. And then they're climbing ladders, and there are people helping each other climb ladders. And as they climb, and that's a metaphor for any way that we try to improve ourselves. And we climb up, and several people are able to fly through at the top. Okay, now we're going to go into the shadow room. We're walking through the hall right now from the sunlight to the shadow room, and in this room I've put photographs that I feel are kind of neutral. They're not sunlight and they're not shadow. This one's called St. Vicar in the Snow. This one is called Hibernation. This one's called Eight Madonnas, and I'm shooting from the back of these figures. And all of this in the background are images of St. Joseph. This one's called Fallen Angel, and this was my first fascination with cement figures, the form, not seeing them as decoration, but as actually giving a message, a feeling. This one I took when I was out in the Southwest, and these holes here, this was cliff dwellings, and this is where they put the wood in these holes. And this opening here to walk into the homes that were built inside the mountain. But I really like the idea that this negative space here became a positive space. I could see a form here, so I called it spectra. This is the second piece of artwork that we're looking at from the shadow room. And this one, I was really influenced by Beardsley, really like his collages. And if you look closely at it, you can see that there's a female and a male figure, silhouette and silhouette. And this is called I Eat You, You Eat Me. And they both have their mouth open and they're biting at each other, and they each have a chunk taken out of already where they've taken a bite out of each other's head. So you could see their influences in what they're made of. One is very traditional, and the other one is more aquatic. Their composition, and it refers to their histories being so different. And the figures in here are part of his history. This is really basically about marital strife. But as you can see from the last piece, the shadow room, all the themes in here are fairly negative pieces. And this is one of the first very negative piece that I did. And this is about a couple that are very preoccupied with themselves. And she has blinders on. She can't really see out very well. Inside her blinders there are mirrors, so she can only see her own reflection. The spiral that comes down here has an eye on the bottom, and she's contemplating her own navel down here. She has, off of each of her hip bones, she has a child that is really meant to be an extension of herself. It has no features of its own because it's just an extension of her. Her partner over here is very preoccupied with money. Briefcases representative of that, and power, because there's an eye in his palm. They both have a plastic covering over them, like meat that's packaged. They can look out at the world, but they don't have to. They don't bother to touch it to get involved in it. This piece is called Stuck, and I envisioned this piece and felt like I needed to go out and do it right away. And I was thinking about someone who was suffering, and I was thinking that they couldn't pull themselves out of the muck, the mud. If you look closely at it, it has wings. This creature, this pathetic creature, has wings, and also that it has horns on its feet. That so it looks like it reference to angels and devils. It's also male and female, and it's very frightened. And then it has. It's kind of, this wood is kind of representative of the neutral zone. It's neither evil or good. I did this so that I wanted to use this as a model for doing the larger piece. I like this as well as I like this. This is done with just a lot of different mediums, charcoal, pencil, oil pastels, and glazes over the top of it. This sculpture is called Indictment, and it's one of the first shadow pieces I did. And it was inspired by a trip that I took to Mexico. We had intended to go there to help them, and we were doing carpentry for a Down syndrome home. And while we were there, I noticed that an awful lot of there was poverty all around, but there seemed to be a fullness to the lives of the people in Mexico, in the area that I was working in. And I felt that we were the ones that needed help because we constantly need stimulation. We need to just our constant need for feed me, stimulate me, and this piece came out of that whole idea. And then did the painting that has a self-portrait within it, because I wanted to include myself in this because the piece is called Indictment. I wanted to also say that I'm part of that too. And I show myself in light and dark, like the Tao. This is the last piece in the shadow room. These 4 panels are called Screaming Celery, and for me they are about our inability to really show our emotions. We're back in the sunlit room now. We walked into the shadow room and come back to the sunlit room. This is a recent painting that I did. I did this one on the floor. This is not a stretched canvas, and I call it Spirit. And I wanted to just capture the spirit of life. And I thought that a child's smile was one of the best ways to show that. And I really liked the scale. While I was working on this, my daughter called and said she's having a baby. So I just became a grandmother while I was working on this. But I didn't know when I started it that I was going to have a new child in my life. piece down here is called Connect, and I was very interested in putting a lot of different forms together and showing the relationship of all things to each other. And this is supposed to be pulsing energy going through these tubes into these different forms, and they all connect with each other. This was a recent piece also. This is another joyous piece. This one's called Dance, and I wanted to experiment with what would happen if I danced while I tried to create the feeling of dance. And this is also inspired by Three Graces. I really like the movement in it and the scale. And this is the last piece of the show. This is actually a portrait of our front yard, and we always call this God's light when light streams through the trees. And then if you look closely, you see little eyes peeking out over the whole surface. And I wanted that to show God's presence in everything. And I think this is a very positive piece. Bishop.